Pinball Quest. Once you've seen Pinball Quest, you've seen everything. And welcome to Nostalgia, a chronological exploration of every NES game released in North America. I'm Mike.
I'm Sean.
And I'm Joe.
Well, that's a wrap for the show. We've seen everything now. The Pinball Quest is the last thing that anybody can see. Once they've seen that, it's done.
I'm actually glad I didn't read the back of the box before playing this game, because I feel like then I would have played this whole game with like a trying to prove it wrong attitude. Like, okay, we'll see Pinball Quest. Like just how crazy you are.
I mean, to its credit, it is pretty crazy.
It is. That's why I'm glad I didn't play it with the attitude of trying to disprove its craziness, because I'm stubborn like that.
Pinball can be just about any genre once you bring it to video game form. Like in its traditional arcade form, it is a little limited, but we have seen some experimental things. However, once you make it a video game, as we've already seen on some other things, it's like, oh, now it's a
fighting game,
sporting thing. Now it's an RPG in this one. But where's the Pinball Battle Royale? Where's my Pinball 99?
Nintendo will get there soon.
Where's my point and click pinball game where I just drag the ball around with a mouse through the course? Where's my shmup pinball game?
What about the clicker? I guess
where's
that's just
my
regular pinball as a clicker, sort of.
The pinball clicker, but like you have to click left flipper, right flipper, and everything, like a certain amount of times. Yeah. Okay.
Only when the ball is near it, so you can hit the ball.
An MMO play-by-mail pinball game.
Oh.
Ooh.
Oh, so like almost like a, what do you call it? Like a shit. Of course, I'm gonna draw a blank on what this is called. When there's like a game that you got like, oh, go to these coordinates and you'll find something, and everyone's doing
like
it.
Geocaching?
Sort of.
That's what I would have thought that you were talking about.
What's it called?
I don't know,
let's keep going with the episode while I silently Google
just shout it out whenever you're ready.
I will.
In the middle of the episode. So there is the RPG mode. It would make sense to probably start there, but we're not going to do that because I want to finish with some good steam on this episode. So instead, we're going to start with the other three cabinets, which trick you into thinking that they may be like other modes of in addition to that RPG mode. They are straight up calling it RPG mode, by the way. So that's interesting in itself. But then there's Circus, Viva Golf, Pop, and you're like, oh, wow, they have like these other spins on pinball too? And it's like, no, these are just pinball, machines simulated in video game form. But they do things that a normal pinball machine can't do, which passes like the video game test of why bother making this at all, right? Like sometimes we've seen pinball games that are just pinball, and that's fine if it's like on modern hardware and it's trying to be like a simulation of pinball. But here it's kind of nice when it's like, for instance, the Pop one, which sounds weird. I sound like I'm calling out for my grandfather. But on Pop, it's bowling meets billiards. And there's also a jukebox that you can shoot into, but don't mind that, because the bowling meets billiards thing is actually pretty neat. There's you're a pinball, so it naturally makes sense that you would hit down pins, right? That's cool in itself. But then
all of these start with you're a pinball. Yeah,
you're a pinball, or you're just a ball, right? The pinball is like the entire machine.
So the ball in pinball isn't a pinball?
I think we've talked about this before, and I said it was.
Yeah, I would think like a baseball is
says.
In the sport of baseball, but it's also called a baseball.
There you go. And
we'll
then
call it the cursor ball.
When you knock down all the pins, which are not like, don't picture an actual just, straight line bowling pinball machine. It's more like a regular pinball machine with like pins scattered around a certain area. Once you clear all those out, you have the ability to go down into the billiards machine, and you can start clearing off other balls inside there via this little billiards minigame. And
Wait, I didn't even think you needed to clear the pin. Like I would. Get
I don't
into
think
the
you have
billiards
to.
thing quite a bit actually without clearing the pins.
The 9-pin arrangement in the middle. I think you have to clear, not the other ones that are like randomly scattered. But it doesn't matter.
I thought there was like just a thing you could hit that would just take you in there. I mean, I got in there so often that I thought that was just happening to me.
I'm inclined to believe what Sean said, because I believe you have to do something. I don't think you just fall into there, but who knows? Just point being that Pop alone is like offering something, somewhat unique to what video games can do in pinball versus what a pinball machine could do, right? It's bringing in that video game aspect, that thing we like. And so just to move along, you guys can share your thoughts eventually, but just to move along, we have Viva Golf, and that's the, now it's another pinball machine, but it's all golf themed. And I thought it was going to be where, like, it's some kind of crazy golf game where every time you use the flippers, it like counts as a stroke, and you have to try to get it in a hole, and then that's like your score for the hole, and you do this through 19 courses. 18 courses, like any other golf game. But that's not what it was. Instead, it was actually just a gopher cleanup game where you just try to beat the shit out of gophers until they go away and keep your lawn nice and safe. And then there's Circus. And Circus is another standalone pinball cabinet, but it's actually a little bit casino themed. There's a slot machine in there. I don't think I've ever seen a slot machine at a circus, but Joe will let me know if that's not true or not.
Well, I only go to casinos, not to circuses, so I only
Got it.
know
Have
that
you
I
ever
go
seen
to
an
circus
elephant?
Things.
Did you ever see an elephant at a casino?
I haven't seen an elephant at a casino, so I guess it probably couldn't go the other way either.
Right. And the reason why I did that quick wrap up, if you will, of the three
we can
other
talk
ones. Now? Yeah, you can talk now about them. The reason why I did that quick thing about them was just to say that, like, that's the standard, like, okay, Pinbot, right? We've played other games like that where it's like, yeah, we're just going to video gameize, or video gamify, pinball in a way that you couldn't do on an actual machine. And then there's this whole, like, RPG mode that we definitely have to talk about. So just thoughts in general. Let's not break down each cabinet, but just thoughts in general on the what appears to be a large selection of the menu screen: Circus, Viva Golf, and Pop Pop.
Well, first of all, it was an ARG, an alternate reality game that I was thinking of. But
good to know.
Second of all, this is already doing, just with these three modes, already doing like exactly what I like have been wanting from other pinball games that we've played on the NES, where it's like, yeah, it's like not keeping itself limited to the physics of real pinball. Like you can move your flippers like from the bottom to the top. That's like actually a big part of the game. And like, yeah, your ball goes into this like tiny little billiards thing, and then you gotta like aim the ball, like things that like wouldn't really work on an actual pinball machine. And that already made me like interested, at least, in this game.
Yeah, I think this is kind of doing the like, video gamify pinball in a way that's not just trying to be pinball. I think in terms of like my favorites, like it kind of is in order in which Mike described them, where I think I had a lot of fun with the billiard bowling one. And then in terms of just like theming, I really liked the golf one, and then the circus one was just kind of like whatever. Yeah. But these really are just like sideshows to the other mode.
Right. But it's nice to have. It's nice to have, if like, even though we haven't gotten into the other mode, it's nice to have it. Like, if you want that to be the main thing, it's nice to be like, oh, I want to just sit down and just like play regular pinball.
Yeah.
And yet, if you bought the game because it was a pinball RPG, like the back of the box touts it as, it's interesting that if you went straight to the RPG mode and then said like, oh, let me go see what like circus mode was about, and then just found out that was just straight up pinball,
right?
You might have a different experience. But I will say, all three of these machines are not even just competent plays or whatever, but they're some of the more pure, while being video game enhanced, like there's some of the more pure pinball experiences to be had on the NES. I feel like the physics don't bother me at all. Like the ball's not too floaty or whatever. Things don't just like sit. There's not too many like pitfalls to just like lose your ball. You have that unique control of the flippers that Joe was talking about, where like you choose to raise them up and down, which is pretty unique for a pinball game and not possible in real life. But there's also like objectives, right? There's like things you should be doing, like clearing pins. Like it's not just about hitting a bunch of bumpers and causing your points to go up. There's actual like things you can do on the screen. And so while they might be disappointing coming off of the RPG mode, they are certainly giving you more than some of the other NES pinball games we have played. But Sean, you said that you might have, or at least what I was interpreting is that Circus wasn't quite cutting it for you based on the order I read the games in. That was the last one I read. Was it because there wasn't like a second screen or another like objective thing to do, and instead it was just, hey, yeah, hope you land in the slot machine for some extra fun, otherwise just hit some bumpers?
Yeah, I mean, compared to the other two, which I thought like played with their concepts a bit more, like it just felt more phoned in than the other ones.
Yeah, that's what I was like. I agree with that, because I was going to say that like the only like really interesting thing at the Circus is the slot machine, and then like that's kind of, I don't know, it doesn't like even really play into the rest of it. It's just like there.
And what's funny is they go in the order that Sean thought they were most fun to least fun. I'm not picking on you, Sean, because it seems like we're all agreeing on that. It's funny that it kind of like wanes down. Like you start with the pop, and you're like, man, I can't wait to see what the other modes offer, and it just gets to be a continuously more dry experience as you go on. And whatever, they always say front load your games, right? Always make the first 10 hours the best.
But to that point, it's very weird to me that I mean, maybe it's because of what you said earlier, but like it's very weird to me that the RPG is not like first on top of the menu.
Might as well be hidden, right? Might as well be a hidden mode.
Yeah, like it's a good thing I decided like I better play all these boards, because I wouldn't have like, I would just be like, okay, this is just gonna be another one. Like,
it's cool though that the menu is also like a pinball machine, right?
Yeah, with that little opening, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, it's like a super close up.
Zoomed in, yeah. It's
Yeah.
like the
like the actual like selection
stuff.
menu. I was thinking of the like pre-menu, the title screen rather. But
It's
yeah,
cute.
yeah.
It's cute
Like,
gift wrapping.
Yeah, you know, in the Nintendo games of the black box era, there was just like, okay, it's mode A and mode B,
Yeah.
right? And it was just like a black screen, and it had the title. And this is like, all right, I appreciate you doing some extra work here, and it even has the when lit add bonus and all that. And I don't know who that girl is and why she's under the pinball machine, but she's got like that Roy Lichtenstein vibe going on, and I'm here for that.
Very poppy.
Yep.
Like
Pop
Pop.
Okay.
Just
it's
end the
time-
episode there.
Yeah, I wish. I wish, but Joe, we have a whole mode to talk about,
Oh, that's right.
because there is a game inside this game where most of the people who ever play Pinball Quest are going to check out, and that is the RPG mode. A mode that is just, it's crazy to say out loud that pinball would have an RPG mode, but you control the pinball and progress through a 6-level castle to rescue Princess Bali. I think that's right, Bali, not Bailey, from Beelzebub, of all people, the Dark Lord of the Machine. And it's all done via the flippers. You're not in control of the ball. That ball doesn't like grow legs and arms and walk around the screen. It's
Most
all
of the
done.
time.
Yeah, that's true. But the actual like pinball levels themselves are all
it's like just the in between levels.
yeah, they're all done that way. You have to just like in the cooler pinball machines that we've always alluded to, there are objectives on the screen. Usually it's just hit an enemy this amount of times, and then that means that the stage is cleared. But disregard that, because, you know, I'm sure they could have expanded on that a little bit to other RPG tropes. There should have maybe been some side quests or whatever. But let's just talk about, before you talk about the pinball aspect of it all, right? Like introducing pinball to RPG, how much like an RPG is this did they earn the RPG mode qualifier?
I think that the best actual description, the closest that you can get to what this game actually is like in adventure mode. Like there are parts between like levels that do their best pantomime of an RPG, but if you're actually talking about like how you're playing this game, it is still a pinball game with lots of set dressing and more interactable interactions with the board, and there's like characters on the board. I wouldn't say this is an RPG in the actual sense of the term.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't either, but there are elements more like the fact that you have a strength level. Again, maybe that's not necessarily RPG because it's not like you level up and like that's your permanent strength level now. But like you do have ways of like sort of customizing your strength and your like.
And there's a shop.
Yeah, the shop. I mean, and I guess that's buying items doesn't necessarily mean RPG, but like you are customizing the board. You're role playing the ball. Like, so like I get that part of it. But yeah, I also just like, maybe back then RPG was just like seen more as like, yeah, this top down, like these people walking around on like enemies on the screen like that. Like that's unique. Maybe not necessarily, not like exclusive to RPG, but that's unique for a pinball game where it's like, yeah, there are characters that are like, it would be like if you were playing real pinball, but you took like tiny people and dropped them on the pinball machine. They can like do whatever they want. Like they're not attached to the pinball machine, and like that's kind of neat. You have some bosses to fight and everything, but
absolutely. And I wasn't undercutting how unique and weird this game is.
Yeah,
I just think it's a bit of a misnomer.
Yeah, I think that also back then, this is especially. It's just like, oh, this takes place in the era, in like the time period, and like of like wizards and dragons that like most RPGs that most people associate with RPG, without actually having those RPG elements.
And knowing it's an RPG, do you think it's a mistake that it's mostly just, hit enemies to clear them off the stage to progress? Does that make it feel more like the action adventure game and less like an RPG? Should there have been like in between stages, like a wizard tells you that you gotta like go up a certain ramp and do something a certain amount of times in order to learn the next magic spell or
absolutely
something?
Absolutely not. I think this is, even though I don't think it's like, it's that descriptive of a title or descriptive of like a marketing term, but I think that this is as far as they should have gotten. As far as they should have gone with this concept, I think that an actual pinball RPG would have been a real slog.
That's interesting because I see kind of exciting and interesting ways they can expand on this. Like, and I don't even know if it's necessarily making it more RPG like, but like saying like, oh, to get new spells, like it would be cool if there's like a part of the board that like is hard to get to. Do you call them boards? I don't know. I don't play pinball.
Yeah, I think so.
The part of the board that like is hard to get to, that like if you get there, you get the fire spell or something. Like like things like that. That'd be kind of cool. And it's like it's maybe not even necessary. You can beat the game without it, but like there are like things that my experience could be different than yours when we both play this game. I like the idea of like them adding things like this, and I also think that. I don't know about like doing so much more with the concept, but like they're very, as I'm saying this, I'm kind of realizing this isn't what you were arguing against, Sean, but like I would like to see them like add a few more screens with more unique like ways to play. Like, there's the screen with the knights that you have to like activate and take out one by one. There's like a boss battle. I'd like to see like more things like that, like expanded upon.
I think what I mostly meant was if there's going to be like a really in-depth like stat progression, or you're going to bring some stuff into like a turn-based thing, like I think that would have been going a little too far. And if you had a bunch of stats to keep track of about like, oh, how much drag does the ball have? And like, I mean, they already have like an attack power, and you kind of have like health. I think that's like as much as there should be.
Yeah, fair.
But yes, I think there could have been like more cool things. Yeah.
It's funny that you don't have to like grind stage 1 over and over again, the enemies on there to be strong enough to take on the enemies in stage 2, right? But Joe, you were talking about spells, which I only ever really thought of as I brought up like that wizard quest that I made up. But your suggestions are good, and I do like the idea of like a fire that would be maybe like forcibly shot in a particular direction. But I'm even thinking like, why not introduce like some traditional pinball things like a multi-ball spell where all of a sudden you're 3 balls or whatever. Like that would be cool because there is the shop where you can buy stoppers and flippers, but that's about it. Like there's no additional like enhancements to the ball that can be done. It's more like so the stoppers are the thing that cover the pits so that you don't fall into them. And then your flippers, I think there's only 2, right? There's the strong and the devil. Is there another one? Yeah.
Just those 2.
And those flippers just make it so that they, when you use them, they hit harder than the base flippers. So they're somewhat of like an attack boost, but there's no like, to Sean's point, it would feel a bit forced if it was like, oh, you got this sword that you now have to like go into a menu and equip, but you don't quite see in the level, or like even worse, you have to swing that sword to like as you're hitting enemies, or else you'll take damage bumping into them. Like I'm not advocating for that kind of stuff. I just think, like you were saying, I could imagine them having even more fun than this. What we got here is 6 like short stages that are prolonged because of the ability of the player to bump into these things enough times. You know what I mean? Like the witch on the second stage right away is an introduction, and like, hey, just so you know, like this is a game where we made a bunch of sponges and you're gonna have to hit them a lot before you're able to move on.
The witch is one thing, but then that moth lady on the stage after that, or 2 stages after that, that is like, it takes like 30 hits or something to take her out.
Yeah, I died quite a few times there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what I mean, right? It's like it's either just your flipper, which, there are tricks in pinball to make sure that you hit things at the right angle and everything, but like that's what it comes down to. Whereas in other genres, such as the action game or the RPG, there's either the turn-based combat or the actual skill of the like in a Contra game, like being able to dodge things. That it's not really like that in this pinball game. You don't quite have traditional health and traditional means of attacking. It's just bumping into things like a regular pinball machine is.
Yeah, I guess more and more I'm kind of like aligning with whoever said earlier about like this is more of a pinball adventure game. Because,
that was Sean.
Yeah, it's cool to me. It's really cool that it's like, yeah, there's like all these different unique things, and like, oh, each board you go to has like different different elements to it that like are pretty unique from the one before. But yeah, they don't really, it's not really scream RPG once I put my glasses on and really look at it. Like at first I'm like, yeah, this is an RPG because it looks like an NES RPG.
And they probably intended it to just be something short, fun, and silly that could help sell the game a lot more.
Yeah.
It's not this giant quest or whatever. As I said, it's 6 stages, but it's also just kind of like, in between you're going to the shop, and the shop doesn't really have that much for sale, and the way that you attack enemies remains the same throughout the game. So it doesn't really evolve on itself. All that to say, did it hold your attention all the way to the end? Did you get to Beelzebub or want to get to Beelzebub?
I got to Beelzebub, but I did not defeat Beelzebub. But it did hold my attention. Yeah, I was very, very charmed by it, especially after going the route that I went, where I just went top down and I just played pinball. I was like, okay, Pinball Quest. It's just, I guess the name is just a cute name because these are just a bunch of different pinball boards with interesting things on them. And then I got to the RPG and I was like, no way, like like this is really cool, and it was interesting.
Yeah, charmed by it is what the phrasing I would use as well. Just the whole concept is cute and fun, and I think it was really clever the way they did some things here. And that's really important because I think like contrary to what you said earlier, Mike, about like the physics of it and sort of just like the feel of the pinball itself, I'd say that this kind of is lacking in that regard. Like there was like I feel like your flippers are kind of it's kind of crunchy, and it doesn't feel like it's as reactive as previous games that we've liked, previous pinball games, and the ball itself doesn't seem to have as many like trajectories that it can go. I know that it is like a physics simulation. It's just not as crisp as I'm used to, I think.
Yeah, I noticed that too with some of the flipper stuff. I mean, there were a couple times where like I would just barely tap the ball on like the edge of the flipper, and like it would either not it would make contact, like it would actually like react as if it made contact but not actually go anywhere.
Yeah.
And then other times I would do that same thing and it would just like fly like in a direction that I would not anticipate. And I felt like that was like on the edge of the flipper was where the physics got like a little weird. But then also, yeah, I noticed like compared to other pinball games that, at least in the way my memory serves me, they were like, they felt a little smoother. Not that it really hindered this game. I just did notice it when comparing them.
Well, here's a good test for the flippers. In the first stage of the RPG mode, after you destroy the tombstones, you have to go up a ramp. How many attempts did it take you to get up that ramp?
Quite a few, until I kind of found the sweet spot and was able to get there because I kept falling back down once you're sort of fighting that mini boss. And I was able to pretty consistently get back up, but the first time's tough.
Yeah, I don't know. I actually had to like scrub back in this video to see what you're talking about here, but that little the little pathway or whatever. The thing that I remember helping me is that it's sort of, if you get pretty close to it, it then like sort of suctions you to it and like pulls you up.
Yeah, and I was gonna say like that's a good test of like. Because it's not a large, easily accessible area, and so if it was, if the flippers were terrible, right, it would be something that was very frustrating. Like, oh man, even on the very first stage, right, like I just can't get up to the next zone. But I feel like it's like you want to hit it a little later than you should, in a way. But once you like adjust and calibrate, it's not so bad.
Yeah, it wasn't game-breaking. It just didn't feel as good as previous games.
Did we mention that, like, at the shop you can steal?
No, we didn't mention that.
Like an interesting...
I never
guess
tried
there's another RPG thing. You can be a thief. The archetype. But yeah, you can decide to like shop, leave, or steal. And it took me a while. I think I had to look it up, but to like figure out exactly what's happening when you steal. But like basically, I don't know if it's a 50-50 chance, but you have a chance of one of two things happening. Either you just like fill out your inventory with like cool stuff, or like the devil beats you up and you lose half your money or your points or whatever you call it. And very, that's a very basic thing that like they added, but it's like, is it interesting that like they even felt like, oh, let's add this little like gamble to it.
Did you use it often?
I used it once and lost half my money, and I was like, well, that was stupid. And then I Googled it later.
Lost half your money as if there was like a lot to buy anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
They just make those things very expensive.
The flippers are pretty expensive.
Yeah.
Until like later in the game, you're not going to be able to afford the extra flippers.
And then you just reminded me of the thing I wanted to talk about, the flippers. That ability to move them up and down across the stage is important in here in the RPG level specifically. It's important in the base pinball cabinets as well, but like you will have to constantly keep shifting if you're falling back into the other zones. You have to prepare for that. And so do you feel like that added anything to the game? It's fine if it added a challenge and that's all, but like, was there a reason not to just have the flippers like be how they are in usual video game form, where like, you know, you just control all the flippers on the stage and they never move around? Like what did moving around and your control over them add, I guess is what I'm asking.
Well, it to me it added like a little bit of the progress that you're making through this like journey. But also there are times where you have to sort of, I mean, it never gets super heavy, but you do have to sort of strategically think about, like, where do I want these flippers to be? And there were even times where I was trying to, like, because, you know, sometimes you have two sets of flippers and they all four of the flippers move at the same time. So, like, sometimes I'm hitting something from my bottom flippers and there's flippers just above it. And I'm, like, trying to hit with the bottom flippers and then move all the flippers out of the way so the ball has a clear shot. So I'm not, like, bumping into my flippers above. Like, it's a little easier to visualize than it is to explain. But that, I think there was strategy to it, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's enough of a gap between your input and the flippers actually getting there that you kind of have to be cognizant of where your flippers are, and that whole sort of like internal progress of each level. Like if you let it fall through to like sort of where you came from before, like you kind of have to put in some extra work to get back there. So it's a cool little feature.
Yeah, it keeps you on your guard for sure, which is a nice enough inclusion for it, and especially in the RPG mode, it felt natural. The RPG mode is what I played first, so I understood it. It's funny, and then when you go to the other pinball cabinet, you're like, oh, this is just like that's what this game decided to do. Like, I don't think it was necessary in the other ones that you have to like also move the flippers around.
Yeah, you could have just had flippers up there in the other ones, you know,
right.
like had another set of flippers. But I also think that, yeah, it is just, I think the easiest example of like the developers realizing that they don't need to be tied to the physics of pinball. Like, you know, that makes it cool to me. That makes it like, if you're a pinball fan, I imagine you'd be like, oh, that's neat, because I couldn't do this in real life. Like that's what gives this appeal, you know, in my opinion.
Did you see what happens at the end of the RPG mode?
Yes, I don't know if I understand it, but yes.
I don't know. Like, yeah, was the magnet behind it all along? Like, what are they destroying at the end there? It's a magnet, right?
Yeah. Did they destroy the magnet? I thought they just got like sucked up by the magnet.
It looks like they got sucked up by it, but then they make it, you know, they make it explode. Like he hits it so hard that it cracks and explodes.
To you know, control a pinball, which is presumably made out of a magnetic metal. The magnet is, you know, it's like sort of evil and conniving behind the scenes, and you're destroying the thing that's trying to control you as the pinball. And I don't know.
I like it. No, he went free.
Yeah, it's almost like there was no like actual like wizard. It was just like there's a guy cheating while playing pinball. And it's almost like the Lego movie where it's
yeah.
I don't even remember exactly, but like wasn't Will Ferrell like a collector or something?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And his son just wanted to play with him.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Play with the Legos, not him.
Yeah.
No, he also wanted to play with
Cats
his
in
dad.
the Cradle.
Which is really just Lego saying like the people on the secondary market shouldn't be able to make money.
Because they make a ton of money. They make an absolute shit ton of money. Yeah, I like your interpretation of the ending now, Sean. I see it. In fact, there's even a nice little like shot of what we presume is the ball that we were playing as. He has like a X where like I guess a scar would be from all the
he's being reintroduced
hit.
to his friends.
Right. He's like, you remember me? Like I got captured and I was forced to be in a pinball machine. And so maybe we're the bad guys?
Yeah, could be.
Yeah, I think we were the bad guys in this game.
I love the credits though. I actually didn't watch the credits until right now, but it's got like it's got that scene you're talking about, and then it's got like a little image of like the castle, which you know we didn't know about until this image. But and it gives me very like Square. It gives me very like Final Fantasy Kingdom Hearts credits feeling. There's
Wow.
always like a
yeah.
video of I'll mention Kingdom Hearts in any context I possibly can. So
some other related pinball games that I just put here because there's no sequels and spin-offs. Living Ball, released in 1994 on the Amiga. It was the largest pinball table ever created, according to the box. And I guess they can back that up because it has a 99 level table called Wasteland.
Jesus
and certainly sounds like a waste
of
to
your
me.
land.
Yeah. And then, of course, like every pinball game on the NES that tries to like shift genres, I have to mention Yoku's Island, which is not an RPG, but it is a full-length Metroidvania pinball game and is worth checking out if you liked this quick little RPG mode demo in Pinball Quest. Which brings me probably to that. I guess that was a controversial statement. Do you guys agree with that? Demo? I guess I'm not trying to reintroduce old wounds. Instead, we'll discuss if this really felt like a full game when we vote for Pinball Quest on the Essential Games list. I played the RPG mode first, and I wonder how things would have gone if I just played in the intended order of the menu. The menu wanted me to play Pop Pop, and that's a good game. It's a good little board where there's some new things happening, but I started with RPG mode because I had to see what it was all about, and we're on limited time. And I do feel like RPG mode wasn't all the way there. It's serviceable as like another little mode in this game, but it was like almost like the way, because I picked it first, I was picturing that to be the campaign, and the other three, as I pitched them even in this episode, are just kind of like, oh, and here's some standalone boards. But I don't think that that's what the developers intended here. It really does feel like those three boards are just as important and probably got equal development time and thoughtfulness as this RPG mode did, because this RPG mode is missing some features where those other three cabinets, Circus, Viva Golf, and Pop Pop, have some additional features that could have probably carried over nicely into the RPG mode. So it's a little bit of an unbalanced game here. I'm gonna put it as a no, but I do like the idea of a pinball RPG, and I think what they did here is exactly what I said before, the music. It's a nice demo of what a pinball RPG could be. Joe?
So coming into this, I was pretty, when I first started playing, I was pretty sure pretty quickly, like, how I was going to vote. At least I thought. In the sense that, like, I thought, this is a good pinball game. In my opinion, at least for my taste, better than like the other ones we played because it's doing like these interesting new things. But maybe I play it. But then I got to the RPG mode, and that's when I got like a lot more confused on how I wanted to vote, because pinball is just not my thing. And I mentioned last week how racing games are just not my thing. But this game like sold me on pinball. And like that's saying a lot, especially the RPG mode. Like I just think that was so clever and interesting. And I love the idea. I love the things that they were doing in it. I do wish that there were more levels, maybe more to add among the levels. Like, and I do think that they probably were, maybe not sure how the RPG mode would sell, because they're like, well, who's our audience? Pinball fans or RPG fans? So that's why they added these other three pinball cabinets to be like, well, at least pinball fans will still like get what they were maybe looking for. But now, as I look at it, I do kind of wish that, like, if there are going to be 4 modes in this game, that there's, like, the RPG mode, and then there's, like, some other event, then there's, like, the Contra mode or something, like, and they're all just, like, it'd be cool if it was, like, 4 little adventures, and I don't think that that's asking too much, because the RPG mode was not particularly long, and I could see them doing that, 3 more times. I guess all this to say that I think I have landed on this is definitely a play it, and I would love to see a sequel to this game that really blows my mind. And I think I've answered the question that maybe we've asked in the past of like, what would it take for me at least to put a game on the essential games list, a pinball game rather on the essential games list. And I think that this answers it by being close to that, but not quite there. So not essential.
Sean.
Yeah, I think that the developers totally intended for the RPG mode to be the star of the show, and for these other three to just sort of be like extras, sort of like how Joe alluded to, like, oh, let's just toss these in so that there's just more pinball. Because unfortunately, it is kind of just there's not really a lot going on the RPG mode. But the short amount of time that I spent playing the RPG mode, like they proved that the concept is cool, and I did have fun with it. I think that there are other issues with it that sort of undercut how unique and goofy the whole idea is. At least in my opinion, like just the way the ball plays is kind of rough. But yeah, I'd love to see. I know that we're not going to, but I'd love to see another version of this, a lost sequel, and it's definitely a play it, but yes, not essential.
All right, 3 no's, but long cases for them, so that's pretty good. I will back up Sean's claim that I do think, and we keep saying I do think this whole episode. Guys, we just think it.
I do think.
Yeah, I do think. I firmly believe that they were definitely putting the RPG mode, at least from a marketing standpoint, first, and knew that would sell in the age of Dragon Warrior and all that. That this would be good. Now, it's funny is I don't think Dragon Warrior actually sold that well, and that's how it became like a Nintendo Power promotion. But you get what I mean. Like RPGs were on the rise, so why not? You can see it in the name Pinball Quest, right? It's not Pinball Casino. It's not Pinball Golf. It's not Pinball Billiards, Bowling, Extravaganza, Bonanza. Instead, it's Pinball Quest, and they talk about that mode on the back of the box about like, it takes a fearless heart and a fast mind to conquer blah, blah, blah. You know, like you get it. So yeah, they were definitely selling all that, which just makes me think that that's all the more reason to put some more time into it. Massage that baby. I don't know if you're allowed to massage a baby, though.
Don't do that.
Thing? Yeah. Don't massage babies you don't know. We're not ending.
That's the end of the show.
No,
That's the end of the show.
It's the end of the whole series. It's the whole end of the podcast. Wait, are we still going?
It was an ambulance for me.